welcome back for another episode of Hoeology Podcast. This is your host, Destiny. I missed you guys. I feel like I haven't recorded in a minute. I've just, life be lifing as always. But I'm excited to talk about today's episode because it really means something special to me. And it honestly is what inspired me to create this podcast in the first place. And I feel like I really haven't touched on it. I've kind of hinted at it in some episodes, but I haven't really deep dived into what it means and where it is put me today. So as always, we start off with our tweet of the week. The tweet of the week says, "It's very powerful as a woman to stop equating your sexuality with only being an object of desire instead of an agent of desire. Sex doesn't have to be about being consumed. You are there to receive pleasure in turn. Once you become the perceiver, you will understand how beautiful it is to witness someone in such an intimate and vulnerable moment, and you will never feel self-conscious again." That is powerful, okay? I'm not gonna lie, one of the biggest things that I struggled with as someone who was introduced to sexuality but not introduced to pleasure like early on was feeling confident. And that can mean a multitude of things. Feeling confident in speaking up for myself, feeling confident in saying, I did not like this, feeling confident in saying, I do like this, feeling confident in the way that I look, the way that I taste, the way that I smell, like all of these things that are, centered around sexuality and pleasure. And essentially, it all boils down to confidence. Like, if you're confident, you're the shit. You're going to have better sex because you're confident. Like, you know what you're doing. You know what you like. You're not afraid to stand up for yourself. Like, you have healthy boundaries. Those are all things that I did not learn until later in life. Honestly, in that later in life point is when I discovered pleasure. But we're going to get to all that. But I really do think that that's powerful to say that essentially your confidence and your sexuality and pleasure are all linked together. Okay, so first let's get some basic definitions out of the way because we want to be educated on this podcast. We want to be correct. So sexuality is your capacity for sexual feelings. That seems simple enough. The definition of pleasure is a feeling of happy satisfaction and enjoyment, or if it's used as a verb, to give sexual enjoyment or satisfaction to. So now that we have the definitions, I want to kind of run back a little bit and kind of show you guys how separated my sexuality and my pleasure were, like starting from the beginning. My introduction to sexuality was losing my virginity and having sex. That's literally it. Mind you, when I was in high school, we did have sex ed, but the things that they taught us were how not to get pregnant. This is what happens if you have unprotected sex. STIs, horrible, disgusting. You're gonna be gross. Like it was very hard, I would say, but people were still having sex, so it didn't scare us enough. But that was my introduction to sexuality. That was it, having sex. And I remember, I think in the Nothing But the First Time episode, I mentioned how like after my first time, I was like, this cannot be it. Like, I was sold a fucking dream. This is some damn bullshit. Like, this is not at all feeling like what I saw on TV and what my friends had told me about. Because, like I also mentioned in that episode, I had sex because everyone else was. Like, straight up peer pressure. Like, I just wanted to fit in. I just wanted to be cool. Like, I wasn't bullied into it for sure, but I just did it because that's what everyone else was doing. Now, I will admit that I think having sex at such a young age and not having any real time to discover myself led me to years of mediocre, borderline trash, consistently sex and hypersexuality that I don't know if I would have waited, I don't know would it have been different. I also grew up in a household that my mom would talk to us about sex, but not really talk about sex. Like she would be like, my mom was raised on survival, so that's a whole different thing. But like she would be like, don't be fucking for anybody that essentially that can't do anything for you. Like you need to get your ducks in a row. Don't be giving your body away to people that don't deserve it, essentially, which is a fucking great lesson. Like, and it's true because bitch, I gave my body away for way less than what I deserve, but we're here now. So, but overall, I think that was my lesson with sexuality. It was just having sex. So it wasn't until I was 21 21 and fun and sexy, and I loved my body, and I was super hot, and I was with my sugar daddy at the time. That was when I was first introduced to pleasure. Now, pause because I have to give y'all background. So, background. I did not masturbate. I lost my virginity young, 21 years old. Between then, didn't masturbate. Whenever someone or was talking about it or whatever, like I was just like, I don't need to. Like I have a man. I don't need to do any of that. I don't see the reason to touch myself. Like didn't know fucking vibrators. Like I knew they existed, but I thought they were for like super freaks. Like I'm like, no, there's no need for that in my life. Like flips hair, fucking Hillary Banks attitude, like idiot. Stamp it on my forehead. So then obviously through the years, like I said, this is leading up to me being 21. I'm getting a little bit more picky about who I share my body with. Like, bro, why are you fucking homeless, basically, like living on my fucking couch and I'm fucking you? Like you're doing nothing for me. So I started to get that lesson that I learned very young, that I don't want to share my body with people that can't do shit for me. Enter my sugar baby era. So I meet my first sugar daddy. His name is John. Oh my gosh, we were having so much fun, going places, spending money, whoop de whoop de whoop. This man though, freak nasty. Like he was into some shit, and I really love that for him because he was like, this is what I like, this is who I am. If you don't like it, that's okay. Like we can just go our separate ways. But I was like, I felt so safe with him. I felt so comfortable with him that I was like, you know what? I'm sure I can learn some shit. Like, you know, at that age, like 21, 22, like around that age, you swear, baby, you swear you know every fucking thing. Can't nobody tell you nothing. Like, not to diminish your life experiences then, because everybody has a different 24 hours, but you still have so much life to go, and you really can't, it's really hard to be objective in that moment. But if you're listening to this and you're around that age group, it's okay to be a sponge. Absolutely stick up for yourself if you feel like, you know, you do know some things, but you really are going to learn so much as you grow into your later years. So just be open is all I'm saying. So John and I are getting, you know, freak nasty, whatever. He's always like surprising me with gifts every time I'm with him. Like besides my fucking allowance, he's like, oh, I bought you something. Oh, I bought you something. If you ever watch Sex in the City, John was my Mr. Big. We weren't toxic though. He just always got me shit. So one time I come over to his house. He has a purple bag. Purple's my favorite color. And he's like, I got you something. Like, I want to, you know, see how you like it. So I'm like, okay. So I pull it out the bag and it's a vibrator. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. Like, I didn't know. Because again, I didn't masturbate because I was like, I don't need to. I got a man, or I can just make him do whatever. Like I really did not know self-pleasure. Like mind y'all, I had just discovered self-love. So like it was really early in the game for me. So I pull out this vibrator and it is a We Vibe clitoral stimulator. And I was just like, you know what? I'm going to try it. Like, again, I felt safe with him. He had never done anything or pushed me into anything sexually that made me feel like this was like too extreme, but it was just new to me. So whatever. So I'm like, you know what? Give it a go. Y'all. Introducing pleasure. Okay. I did not realize that up until this point with this clitoral stimulator that I'd never had an orgasm. Yes. Shock. I know. Close your mouth. But I had never had an orgasm at this point because, again, I'm not educating myself on sexual health, sexual wellness, like other than STIs. I'm not looking into pleasure. I'm not looking into anything related to me. I'm just being that object of desire instead of an agent of desire, like our tweet of the week said. So, boom. We're having sex. He's like, I want you to use the toy. And I'm like, okay. So at first it was like hilarious because you know how vibrators, like the handheld ones are, when that vibration starts, mind y'all, this is my first experience like using one. When it starts, I was like, oh shit, like it tickled my hand and I almost damn dropped the thing. But he takes his hand over my hand and he places it on my clitoris with me. And I literally, like, I think within a couple seconds came, like, orgasm came. Like, this entire time I'm thinking, oh, like, yeah, I come during sex. Bitch, no, you didn't. Like, I want to look back at my old self and be like, bitch, he's not doing it for you. This is not it. There's more to come. Like get up. But for real, like, I was just like, I feel like God. This is what power feels like. So from there, baby was up. Got the anal training kit. Got the anal training kit that vibrates. Got a rabbit. Like, I didn't really like the rabbit because then at that point I discovered, wait a minute, I don't like penetration. I actually prefer clitoral stimulation when it comes to vibrators. And then literally from there, like, it just kept evolving. Like, I was so curious about pleasure, so curious about just like everything that's out there. Mind you, there is like a running joke that sugar babies don't consider themselves sex workers. I think sugar babies qualifies as sex work because there is a transaction being exchanged that is like flat out on the table. Like, versus, a guy takes you to dinner. He expecting you to fuck him because you took him to dinner, but he's not going to say it. Sugaring, he's telling you, if you be my girlfriend, I will pay you to do so. That is sex work. You're exchanging something for something else and it's flat out. Versus like subliminal dating where he won't say it. He'll just treat you like shit if you don't do it or pressure you or coerce you. But again, another rant for another day. But I said that to say that being a sugar baby means being in a world where you're exposed to a lot more of what goes on in the world, especially as it relates to sexuality and pleasure. I was introduced to a sugar sister of mine who is actually a femdom, and that was something new to me to experience. She's sending me pictures. She got men on the ground crawling around her house in underwear, scrubbing her floors with a fucking toothbrush, and I'm like, wow, this is just a regular Tuesday for you. Like, I love that shit. Like, and that just literally like ignited something in me that is brought me to where I am today, where because I was so late to experience pleasure, and then because I had like essentially an unhealthy relationship with sex at first, it made me feel like I want everybody else to like feel how I felt essentially when I first discovered pleasure. Like, it's okay if you're curious. I may not want to do something, but if I want to learn about it first to give myself the option to say I don't want to do it, that's okay. If I want to know about certain sex toys, but I don't actually want to have to like try it out, or I don't even know what some are called, or like if I have this, issue vaginally or whatever, like, it's okay to ask, and you're probably not alone. Now, if you're a woman listening to this podcast, like 90% of our conversations that we're having when we're in a group setting, it's gonna lead to sex at some point. Whether we're talking about somebody is fine, oh, do you think he can fuck? Like, do you think he has a big dick? Like, I don't know, he kind of bow-legged. Like, at some point, the conversation is gonna turn to something related to sexuality. Which then made me think, if this is so common, like if sexuality is so common, if pleasure supposedly is so common, why is it still such a taboo subject? That's why I created this podcast, because I don't think it should be taboo. I think we should all be able to lean on each other, ask questions, rediscover pleasure, rediscover parts about ourselves. Like, I just feel like that was missing. And sometimes it can be really jarring to enter this industry as a newcomer, even if like you don't want this to be your full-time, baby or your passion. But if you're just entering it to ask those questions, it can be really overwhelming, and it can kind of be standoffish. I've met some creators that were super just welcoming, nice, like friendly, and I'm going to list them actually in the show notes because they just deserve all the love and like support that can be sent to them, because that's really like, that's just a great feeling. Now, I have also met some creators that are very standoffish. Like, they can make people that maybe are more on the vanilla side of the spectrum feel bad about being so. I don't care what side of the spectrum you're on. I just want to make sure that you're informed, because I wasn't. And that led to an unhealthy relationship with sex and sexuality. And in turn, I didn't have pleasure. So that's my goal, is to bring people pleasure and to bring people awareness to that pleasure. And kind of like I was mentioning earlier, honestly, the underlying tone there is confidence. Like, I didn't have confidence enough to say, I don't like this. I don't like what you're doing to me. So then I just had trash sex and I never had an orgasm. But after discovering pleasure, oh, baby, I was a lot more vocal. I was a lot more vocal. This ain't doing it for me. Oh, you came? I didn't. Like, can you move more to the left? Like, and it took time. It wasn't like it was overnight. So please don't get that idea if you're someone that's like, oh, I don't really know how to speak up for myself. Like, it takes time. And there's a way to go about it without making your partner feel like, basura. Hold up, hoes. I know this episode is getting good. I just wanted to pop in and remind you that we have a 30% off discount code with Bellessa Boutique. That's 30% off any toy friends on their website. Use our code BBHoeology30 to save today. Let's get back to the episode. So pretty much after my introduction to sex toys, I was like I said, it was up from there. I started looking at smut books, just even changing up the kind of porn I watched. Like, I really was like, what interests me? Now, I do want to say that in this discovery period, I found out things that I absolutely loved. Found out things that I absolutely hated. Like, it was definitely, I was building my own spectrum. And I think that in building that spectrum, I really was able to build up my, like, self-love, self-pleasure even more. Now, there was a period of regression. Not gonna lie to y'all. That's when I started, like, again, bending to just what my partner wanted, just being an object versus being like a partner in the sex, and making sure that I was receiving pleasure too. And after that relationship ended, I was like, never again. Like, I worked too hard on myself to essentially regress and diminish all of the hard work that I had already done. So in comes like my rediscovery period of pleasure, and it was amazing. And here we are today. Like, people are making pleasure non-negotiable. Even women or men that might be celibate, they're still focused on their pleasure. Like, and I think it is so amazing and so beautiful. And even though I consider myself to be a late bloomer to the party, I love it. Like, and it makes me, again, want to continue to inspire people and talk to people and bring people to the forefront of pleasure, because it really is the center of everything. Like, that confidence, that pleasure you have for yourself, like, everything should stem from making you happy, which is literally the definition of pleasure. Like, happiness. That's it. You deserve that. So, you know what I started doing? When I'm having beam flick time with my toy friend, I tell myself, just as I'm about to orgasm, you deserve pleasure. You deserve pleasure. I say it out loud because I believe in manifestation. I believe in, like, power over words for the most part. But I tell myself, you deserve pleasure, just to remind me I do. Like, I'm worthy of this orgasm. I'm worthy of so much. And the light that I'm seeing right now, as I'm, like, again, transcending my own body through this orgasm, like, yeah, I fucking deserve this, bitch. Yes. Matter of fact, let me run it back 3, 4, 5 times. It's beautiful. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And then you're in a better mood all day. You're like, you know what? I did my thing. I was talking myself through it. Overall, though, my goal is just to have people feel confident in their pleasure, feel worthy of pleasure. Like, it just is such a beautiful thing. And I'm grateful to have experienced it in a safe space like I did. I really can't thank that man enough, because he gave me my first orgasm. That's crazy, right? Like, maybe not. Maybe it's not crazy. Maybe I'm just, like, super dramatic, which is probably true. But it was a great way to experience it and be introduced to something in a low pressure, calm way. So whenever you are considering, voicing things that give you pleasure, if you have a partner, just make sure that you're aware of where they are too and maybe their history with pleasure. It can be challenging to talk to someone about something that you just found yourself able to talk about and be confident in, and then you get rejected or you get shot down and you're just like, you feel bad, and it kind of makes you want to go into that shell. But like, you don't always need a second person. Like, so find a way that can still give you pleasure. Like smut, for example, is a great way. I've talked previously about wanting to have like an MMF threesome. I don't think my husband's gonna go for it. Maybe I don't even want to go for it in real life. Like, I just like the idea of the fantasy. But even if he was to be like, fuck no, like you're crazy, I would still feel like I still need to fulfill this in some kind of way. So like, with consent, obviously, like I'm not gonna cheat, but I'm saying I would read a book. Read it in a book. Like, listen to a spicy audiobook. There's so many avenues out there to bring your fantasy to life without hurting someone that you love and care about. You just gotta be creative. With that said, I have enjoyed yapping away on this mic over here, but happy hoeing, and I'll see you guys soon.